Speaking of somebody that wasn't making a lot of money, Jeff, but now just got absolutely paid, let's talk about Mr. Irrelevant from the 2022 NFL Draft, Brock Purdy. He signed a 5-year extension just I think a little less than an hour ago with the 49ers for $265 million. That's $181 million in total guarantees, and it equates to $55 million per year on an average annual basis. Okay? So, check this out, Jeff. All the other 50 million quarterbacks, and tell me if you think that I'm being maybe too much of a California guy where I'm backing up the deal. All the other $50 million quarterbacks, where you look at like Herbert, you look at Dak, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua. What the fuck have they done? Brock Purdy walked off the Super Bowl in overtime against the Chiefs with the lead. I mean, what else do you want from the guy? If you ask me, aside from Burrow, Hurts, or whatever, Purdy deserves that way more than Love does. Purdy deserves that more than Tua does. But yet the narrative in the mainstream, because he wasn't Kyler Murray, number one overall pick, because he wasn't Tua, a national champion, also a first round pick, he was Mr. Irrelevant. Everybody missed him. Everybody except Kyle freaking Shanahan, who stood on the table and wanted him. Same with, I think, his QB coach, Brian Griese. But long story short, people are like, why would you pay this guy? Let him walk. But he's done so much. Jeff, do you think he was overpaid?
No, not at all, right? And so these are going to be some pretty damning stats here for you. When you look at Brock Purdy, since he took over in Week 14 in 2022, yards per attempt, he's first in the NFL. Passing yards, total 92,000, just over 9,200. He's fourth in the NFL. Passing touchdowns, he's got 62 in that time frame. He's seventh in the NFL, and total QBR, he's fourth in the NFL. So when you look at all of those things that measure great quarterbacks by, he's top five in damn near everything except for passing touchdowns, which makes sense considering as much as they do run the ball in San Francisco. It's crazy when you go back and you actually look at what Brock Purdy did at Iowa State. Sorry, that's his sophomore year. Okay, and you can Google all of this. You can Google all of it. It's free out there. There's no point in being retarded when Google is free. People forget after his sophomore year, he led college football in attempts, completions, yards, and yards per game. He was coming into that junior year. He was projected to be a first-round pick. And he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Vegas had him at like fourth or fifth on the Heisman voting availability coming into that junior year back in 2020. Okay. He had a down junior year where he threw 9 interceptions to 19 touchdowns. And then he did the same thing again as a senior, 19 touchdowns. So he dropped after that sophomore year. But going into that junior year, he was projected to be a first-round pick. And then he had average college seasons those last 2 years and really kind of dropped out of sight. Like, people kind of forgot he existed, except for, Kyle Shanahan, which may be the best thing he's ever done, right? And so Brock Purdy doesn't get a lot of love because he's not flashy. He's not an asshole. He doesn't carry himself like some of these other guys do. He doesn't have a lot of bravado, doesn't have a big ego. Was living with 2 or 3 roommates in San Francisco because he couldn't afford to have his own place. And people kind of gasp at that. But San Francisco is the third most expensive city in this country behind Honolulu and New York City. So it actually makes sense when you're only bringing home, and I say only, but in San Francisco, bringing home about $400,000 after taxes isn't all that much money out there. And so, you look at this, does he deserve that? You deserve whatever somebody's willing to pay you. Right. And so for me, you want to give him 181 million guaranteed. It's hard to argue him being worth that when you look at what he's done during his time in the NFL these last couple of years. Right. So I'm happy for the guy. I think he carries himself well. I think he's a great quarterback. And I think every week people talk about how much he sucks. And every week he just goes out there and he performs well enough that on a team loaded like San Francisco has been these last 4 years, that dude has a C on his chest. And there are some quarterbacks in this league that don't have that on their chest. And so that tells you how much the players on that franchise think about him and what he does for them. So, and you've got some Hall of Fame caliber guys: George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey on the offensive side, right? Like those guys voted for him to be a captain. George Kittle had that same seat, right? So like he's thought of there with some of the greats that they have on this team, and so inside that organization, he's loved. People that understand football know how great he is, and I good for him. Let's see what happens though, because we all know the San Francisco team is a shell of what they were last year, and unfortunately for him, because he's now making what he's making, he's going to be the scapegoat regardless of what happens there because of the high turnover they've had on that roster.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime they start losing or whatnot, they're going to point to his contract and say, well, if he wasn't so selfish and didn't take 40 million per year, then they wouldn't be in this situation. No, if the 49ers traded maybe Ayuk a season earlier, maybe if they moved off CMC a year earlier, didn't pay all this money to Deebo Samuel, this, that, and the third. It's the way they manage the team. Look at the way the Rams did it. And now I'm going to stick up for my LA for being an LA native, right? But no, seriously, I mean, they really did a hard reset after the Super Bowl. The problem with their reset, though, is it's not really a problem. They got so good. They were ready to trade Stafford, I think, 2 off seasons ago. They were ready to move off Cup, too. It's just that they hit on so many draft picks, Jeff, that they were all of a sudden so competitive these past 2 years. I mean, you go back to last year, they pushed the Eagles to the edge at home in the snow. We're talking about a Rams team that plays in a dome, people. And they pushed the Eagles team that waxed the Commanders and made the Chiefs look like they've never played a Super Bowl in their lives. Like, that's the team that Stafford and company pushed. But that's them coming off a rebuild. I did not think that Stafford and all of them were going to have a second iteration of the run that they had after, maybe after the Bengals win.
Yeah, and the tale of the tape when it comes to the two GMs, right? Like two GMs handled their rebuilds really differently. Looking at the whole Brandon Ayuk situation in San Francisco, I think they handled that as piss poorly as possible. You should have traded him the moment that your wide receiver number 3 asked for $30 million a year. There's the door, dude. Like, good luck. Go get it from somebody else. You're not getting it here, especially when you knew you were going to have to try and pay Brock Purdy a year later. Like, it was absolutely absurd. This dude wasn't a number 1. He wasn't a number 2. He was a number 3. Instead of just letting him going to find another number 3, you paid him like he was a number 1, right? Like you paid him like he was T. Higgins. He's not T. Higgins. And so just some really, John Lynch should be massacred for what he's done to that team the last 2 years. He won't be, but he should be. But hey, we get to see him this year. It'll be fun to kind of see, where Michael Penix does line up against a guy again like Brock Purdy. People kind of sleep on Purdy, but the numbers don't lie, right? And I get it. You're a stats guy. You can make stats to show whatever you want. But when you've got a guy who's top 4 in damn near every quarterback stat, that's really telling that the guy's really fucking good.
And Jeff, you brought up a very good point about GMs. It's also having the foresight of what this class brings to the table. This year, it was about D-line. It was about running backs. It was about tight ends. That's what was going to be the strong point. Last year, it was the quarterbacks and the receivers, right? Like, you had a Ladd McConkey fall in the second round. John Lynch, have the freaking foresight. There are so many great receivers from last year's class that you could have had if you traded away Ayuk. I bet you, they even took Pearsall, who's a pretty damn good receiver, but imagine they double dipped and they got Pearsall and McConkey. All of a sudden, that starts looking really good. And that's where you really start questioning how tapped in John Lynch is to the scouting world, to the college football world, or was this really more Kyle? But now Kyle is probably having his mind on so many different things, right? Like where he can't really be on the football ops side. Perhaps they lost people because this 49ers team, the way that they're going about it, their trajectory, and they're kind of cyclical, Jeff. This kind of reminds me of like when they had that success with Harbaugh from 2010 to 2014, and then all of a sudden there was friction upstairs with the GM and the coach. I'm not saying Harbaugh and Shanahan and Lynch have that, but the 49ers kind of get into this mode year to year where they just start like cutting players out of nowhere. Like this year, like Leonard Floyd out of nowhere, and you know this best, right? Like didn't the I think you said the front office people were not expecting Floyd to be a free agent, and he just ended up showing up at our doorstep. A nice, pleasant surprise for us, but there was no reason why San Francisco should have cut him for the amount that they cut him for. Like he is a solid, productive player, and I'm happy we were the beneficiary of that. But not only did they lose him, they lost Dre Greenlaw, they lost Talano Hufanga, they traded away Debo Samuel. They are slowly starting their second iteration, but I don't think it's going to be a trajectory like the Rams. I think they're going to probably stay out of the playoff picture for a few years.